To celebrate having read I Follow You, by Peter James, a birthday present from my magical imaginary girlfriend, all about stalking, here is a Guerrilla Democracy News special feature, first published in June 2015. Is Peter James a serial killer? It's for entertainment purposes only, and may I remind everyone who listens to the end, take everything I say with a pinch of salt, and a sniff of paprika. Is Peter James a serial killer? Having been a loyal and dedicated fan of the world-renowned novelist Peter James for many years, I'm profoundly shocked as any reader to contemplate the unimaginable conclusion that Peter James could be a serial killer himself. Tongue-in-cheek aside, very serious questions have arisen as to the agenda and motivation of Britain's award-winning and beloved crime writer. Privately educated at Charterhouse, a close friend of Sussex police and born into the family who made their fortune by making gloves for the Queen, Peter James is better placed than anyone to appreciate the darker and more sinister side of life. Even he is the first to admit that Brighton is the destination of choice for the nation's most successful crime lords to settle and raise their families. With a corrupt police force, easy links to Europe and a transient population, the city of Brighton is the perfect place for criminals to base themselves and lay down roots. Having scared me personally from an early age having read Twilight, Peter James has been a regular addition to my bookshelf ever since. I was even luckier enough to be invited to one of his Roy Grace book launches at the Honey Club in Brighton, where I was fortunate enough to meet the grandfather of British horror, James Herbert himself. Having published 11 Roy Grace books to date, Peter James is set to write many more and even have his books turned into a TV series, while some have already been made into theater shows. There is no stopping him. At the launch of his latest Roy Grace book, You Are Dead, he had these chilling words to say. You know, you could be a serial killer, I could be, the guy taking the photographs could be, any of us. Perhaps Peter James is a serial killer too. Using Harold Shipman as his example, he told latest news reporter Myrie Beveridge, you know Harold Shipman, the worst serial killer we've had in this country, and there he was happy, cheery family doctor everybody loved. Certainly the same can be asked about Peter James himself. As he explained earlier in the interview outside Brighton's racecourse, I've always been interested in the serial killer. You know, we can understand a guy who comes home and he finds his best mate in bed with his girlfriend and he loses it and kills her, but the people I think that really scare us are the serial killers, the people who do it for gratification, for fun, for pleasure. And what's always intrigued me about serial killers is they have to be smart to survive that long, so how often can they be your neighbor next door? Is Peter James smart enough to survive that long, unsuspected, unsolved and undeterred? A close friend of Sussex police, Peter James has embedded himself deep in the heart of Sussex police for many years and knows their darkest secrets, procedures and routines. If any serial killer was to survive undetected, it would be Peter James himself. With the help and assistance of insider David Gaylor, the ex-Sussex police detective who he based the character Roy Grace on, Peter James is planning to write a book with him about the unsolved Sussex murder cases. Called Cold Cases, I was dismayed and disappointed to learn he had no intention of investigating the most notorious cold case of them all, the Katrina Taylor murder of 1996. Read more. Katrina Taylor's murder is being erased from history. Stabbed to death in the graveyard of St. Nicholas Church in Brighton, it could be a scene out of any Peter James novel. Katrina Taylor, a 19-year-old heroin addict, was believed to have burgled and robbed a known drug dealer, and as a message to others in Brighton, the said drug dealer ordered her assassination as an example not to cross him again. While her killers were arrested and brought to justice, a cover-up kicked in and her killers were consequentially released a year later, and to date, the Katrina Taylor murder remains an unsolved murder, or as Peter James and David Gaylor would refer to it, a cold case. Mind you, it isn't surprising Peter James would shy away from investigating the Katrina Taylor murder cover-up. After all, Sussex police themselves are implicated directly in the cover-up. It's prudent for Peter James not to smack his gift horse in the mouth. He knows that if he starts poking his nose into the dark corners Sussex police would rather him not, Sussex police may poke their nose into his dark corners which he would rather them not. I'm personally disappointed in him because as the shadow Sussex Police Crime Commissioner and privy to many allegations of police corruption, he has never replied to my many requests for him to comment on the corruption which runs deep into the heart of Sussex Police. Read more. I call on Roy Grace to investigate the attempted murder of Joe Nielsen. In his book, Want You Dead, he thanks Sussex Police for their assistance. I am immensely grateful, starting with the very recently retired Chief Constable, Martin Richards QPM. Referring to Martin Richards as Tom Martinson in the Roy Grace books, Peter James includes two specific words, which reveals hidden meanings and implications. Very recently retired? He knows as much as anyone who reads Shadow Sussex Police Crime Commissioner Blogspot that Martin Richards unexpectedly retired 9 months before he was meant to. Read more. Martin Richards, why he really retired early. Read more. New information of Martin Richards is coming to light. Be aware that Sussex Police have never commented on the above allegations. Mind you, neither has Peter James, but as previously explained, it's not surprising he hasn't. The present Chief Constable Giles York has alluded to it, but still the cover-up of the corruption deep in the heart of Sussex Police continues unabated. Read more. Giles York admits his hands are tied. Referring to Martin Richards, Peter James makes the point of reminding his readers that he's a recipient of the Queen's Police Medal, QPM. We can all see that the Queen's knighthood list looks more and more like a sex offenders list. The same can be said about any award bestowed to anyone by the Queen. Peter James may well can tell a story of his childhood where he visits his father, who's up late working in his workshop making a very special pair of gloves for the Queen, her husband and mother.
Daddy, why are you embroidering a 5-star? I thought St. David's star had 6 points.
Go to sleep, son. I know exactly what I'm doing. These gloves are for a very special occasion which the Queen and her family never talk about.
Is the truth something out of a Peter James novel? Is the truth that Peter James is a serial killer too? Read more. I'm fascinated by Murder by Peter James, an article published in the Telegraph newspaper on the 7th of June, 2015. Thanks for watching this special feature, brought to life with the voices of Clipchamp Videomaker. I hope to see you again, for another classic Guerrilla Democracy News special. Please be sure to like, subscribe and share, and don't forget to tell your nearest and dearest, all about the wacky, zany and crazy world of Matt Taylor TV. The best entertainment, in our corner of the galaxy.